Hi there. Are you a B58 owner? Let me guess, you've got Apex wheels, lowering springs, maybe an M Performance front lip and rear diffuser, but not the real one, the ones that you just get off of eBay. You've probably got a VRSF downpipe, a TU high pressure fuel pump, pushing stage 2 plus to its limits and telling all of your friends how fast your car is. Do you have upgraded paddle shifters? Are you planning on it? Hi, I'm Kevin, and it sounds like you might be diagnosed with cookie cutter syndrome. It affects 1 in 5 B58 owners worldwide, so you definitely should know that you're not alone. But I'm here to help you figure out how you can plan your own build so that you don't have to copy your friends every time you try to pick your next upgrade. So let's go ahead and talk about it, and hopefully you guys find this video useful. Now, as always, for everybody that's new to the channel, I create these videos to help keep you updated on the latest developments in our community, as well as discuss technical topics so that we have a better understanding of how our engines work. So if you're interested in more videos like that, be sure to subscribe because there will be a lot more coming out in the future. Now, in all seriousness, I'm trying to answer this question because a lot of you guys reach out to me and ask me what intake is best, what downpipe is best, what fuel pump is best. That's always the first question that you ask. And I definitely understand because mods on our cars are expensive, even though it's relatively cheap to get power out of our cars. We don't want to feel like we're spending hundreds, if not thousands of dollars on a part that ends up being a dud or there ends up being a much better value option out there. So I want to kind of answer that question overall for those of you that are getting into your B58, maybe just starting to modify it and want to figure out what to do next. Now, the first thing that you need to figure out is what your budget is. This is usually the first question that I ask, simply because it's going to be your main limiting factor. Yes, you can pretty easily make around 450 to 500 horsepower on these cars with like $1,000, but that doesn't mean that you can use $1,010 to make 600, right? You really need to open up your budget as your goals increase. And so that's something that I think a lot of people need to consider. You know, as you try to make more power, it exponentially gets more expensive. And so just really have the full picture of what you want and how much you plan on spending. Now, if you're just looking at the next step, maybe you just want 1 or 2 mods, I highly suggest you wait for Black Friday. It is right around the corner if you guys are watching this video when it's released, and it will absolutely be worth the wait. Usually around September, October, I start telling people just wait because you're going to save so much money. So many parts go 20, 30, even 40% off, and you're going to have the same parts that you would otherwise be sitting on all winter anyway because there are no conditions for you to be able to use the extra power. So definitely wait. I highly recommend it. I will be posting my normal Black Friday video so you guys can get an idea of what sales are going on if you're interested in making some upgrades this year. Now, the next thing, of course, is to understand your goals. And this can come in a lot of different forms. Maybe you want a certain amount of horsepower. Maybe you want to achieve a certain quarter mile time. Maybe you want to be able to make a certain time at a road course and things like that. So make sure you understand how you drive your car and what your actual goals are. So for me, both of my cars are very different. One is very much a street car where I mostly do roll racing and just enjoy driving it on the highway. The other car is more of a daily driver, but also track focused. So I'm focused on quick spool, still making good power, but I want it to be able to handle better and not worry about, obstructions and stuff during daily driving. So that's why both of my cars are very different. Now, neither one is perfect in any regard, but they are perfect for their purpose. So that's really what you have to focus on, how you plan on using your car, what your goals are as far as power and driving style, and that will help you figure out what's most important. Now, obviously, if you're focused on handling, there are a lot of suspension upgrades and tire upgrades that I highly recommend making on your car before trying to add power. My car was very quick on the stock turbo, whereas with an upgraded turbo, it's much more of a handful. And when I go to the track, it takes a lot more driving focus to really extract that power to get faster lap times. Whereas if you're just worried about drag racing, then yeah, you might be focused on power, maybe some, suspension upgrades to optimize traction in the rear, but mostly you're focused on going in a straight line. So that's why the same upgrade doesn't work for everybody. If you guys are asking me what's the best upgrade for your suspension, it's really going to depend on how you're driving it. Now, speaking of cars that are kind of dual purpose, for those of you that like to daily drive the same car that you race on the weekends, I always recommend that adjustable mods are going to have the best value. So in those cases, that's why I recommend coilovers over springs, or that's why I recommend adjustable control arms versus the M3 control arms. Those are things where you can really take advantage of dialing in your exact specific setup, your exact ride height, your exact chassis balance, exact amount of boost, everything that you want. You don't want a setup that's just simply plug it in and whatever you get is what you get. I know a lot of people try to make that work on this car, and there are older platforms where that very well could work just fine. But I highly recommend getting something like, for example, a Motive Reflex. That's something that you really can tune and dial in exactly what you want based on the fuel that you're running and the power that you're shooting for with the boost that you're making. All of that works much better than a simple piggyback plug and play setup that just batch fires all your injectors at a set PSI. That's something where you can really fine tune things to make it work to your advantage, and it just opens up a lot more opportunities. So usually I will recommend spending the extra coin for something that has a little more capability if that's something that's important to you. But keep in mind that's only important if you plan on using it. So for example, I've got KWV1 coilovers on my 440. A lot of people ask me, why don't I get V2 or V3? Aren't they better? They have adjustable dampening, adjustable compression, and all of these different adjustments that most people don't really use. I really have no interest in upgrading to a setup that has extra knobs and things that I'm never going to touch. And if you talk to most people with these upgrades, a lot of times they bring it to a shop, they get it installed, and then however it's set up, they drive it away. And so that's something that I try to consider if I'm, balancing budget and expense with getting high quality parts. I'm only going to pay for what I plan on using. So for something like that, just keep that in mind. The adjustability can get very high and it can get very expensive for really high quality setups. And it's really easy to sell you on the fact that this makes it better. But if you're not planning on using it, then definitely save your money and get what really works for your goals. Another thing to consider is make sure that you're researching the companies that you plan on working with. So for example, with my turbo setup, I've got the Dynamic AutoWorks UltraFlow X Turbo. It works great for my goals, matches my stock engine and stock transmission setup perfectly. But I had some issues with it. Early on, I had some issues with the wastegate that I ended up having to get fixed. And now we've been back on the road for several months. I've taken it to the track and I've been beating on it without any issues. And working with a company that when I have a problem like that, I can reach out to them and get the problem resolved is a much more satisfying customer experience than one where you reach out to them and they just leave you hanging, they don't respond, they blame everything on you when you know you didn't do anything wrong. So that's really what I recommend focusing on, because again, with the B58, our aftermarket is extremely broad now. We've got multiple companies making upgraded turbos, fuel systems, bolt-ons. All of these parts are all over the market with different logos on them. So really make sure that you're working with a company that you can trust, somebody that stands behind their product, and somebody that will support you in case you're having any issues. Because especially with some of these fly-by-night guys, you'll have a product that seems like it's flying off of the shelves, and then all of a sudden they disappear, and that puts a really bad taste in your mouth. So look for somebody that has good reviews, that has been around for a while and has good feedback on the forums. Usually I like to look for people that are relatively active in like the Facebook groups and stuff like that, because that tells me that they're engaged with the community and doing what they can to provide what we want. Now, on the contrary, even though we have a lot of parts that work really well on our cars, there are a few that have issues. Now, I don't want you guys to get sucked into hearing one or two people saying that they have a problem with their turbo or their intake or whatever and running with that and saying that it sucks. Unfortunately, that's a big part of the B58 game. It seems like if somebody has a part, they tell everybody it's the best and everything else is junk. In reality, there are a lot of different things that work, but there are certain options that you will see higher failure rates and just a lot more issues out in the field. So if you are considering spending, thousands of dollars on an upgrade, I think it's safe to ask that kind of question. It's probably a lot more relevant to people's interests than just saying which one is best and everybody just tells you what they're running. Ask if people have had issues with whatever you're planning on purchasing. Again, if it's a turbo setup or wheels or whatever, from a company you might not have heard of, definitely it's a good idea to check on the forums or post up in the Facebook group and see if people have had issues, if they've ordered through them, what the process was like, and that can give you a good feel for what to expect. Now, again, if you guys reach out to me, I try to do my best to make recommendations based on what I've run personally. I try to create my videos to share with you guys what you can expect if you plan on upgrading the same parts that I've done. I try to test a lot of different things, but I can't test everything. Hopefully you guys can see that sometimes I recommend parts I don't run. I tell you they're perfectly fine. I've heard great reviews from a lot of different fuel pumps and turbo setups and intake manifolds and all of these things. But I do really enjoy what I'm running on my car. And if I remove it, I try to tell you guys exactly why I'm removing it. So again, if you guys are interested in figuring out your builds, just talk to people in the community, check out the comments on my videos. Different people will share their feedback working with different companies and stuff like that. And that can help you figure out what works best. But at the end of the day, there is no perfect build. There are a lot of different things that work depending on if you want quick spool, more top end, really good traction and handling, or if you just want to fly in a straight line. All of that will help dictate what works best for your goals. So take some time to just sit and think on that, plan out your build, focus on what you want to spend your money on, and wait for Black Friday. Every year, that's the recommendation. Wait for Black Friday, save some coin, and you can get the same setup for less. But yeah, I just wanted to make this video. Hopefully this at least helps you guys think about what you should focus on in case you're planning out your build. And I think that's it for this video. So thank you guys for watching, and I hope this helps. And if you have any other questions or comments, leave them down below.